Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to talk to you about The Adventures of Shirley Holmes, the series review. So this show came out in 1997 and lasted all the way until the year 2000, and it lasted for 4 seasons. I was very unaware of this show. It had like 52 episodes. Excuse me. But like I was very unaware of this show and I didn't watch it until probably about 8 or 10 years ago on YouTube. The reason why I never watched this is because when it aired, my family did not have cable. And when my family did get cable in 2000, that's when the show got canceled. And it's a Canadian show. It broadcasts on YTV, and YTV is like a Canadian kids teen type network, very similar to that of Nickelodeon and that of Disney Channel. And in fact, in America, it aired on Disney Channel. And I had no idea because, like I said before, in 2000, that's when it got canceled. And that's around the time I did get like cable and stuff. So I was very, very unaware of this very intriguing show. And you know what? Like this show is a lot of fun to watch. It's very innovative and very creative. Basically, Shirley Holmes, as you can tell, is the great grandniece of Sherlock Holmes, the great detective of like the novels and stuff like that. And just like Sherlock, she is also like, very skilled in solving crimes. She's a detective. I got tongue-tied there for a second. But she's a very young detective, a teenager and everything, with a North American accent. Because it's set in a fictional town of Canada and stuff. And you know what's crazy? After watching this show for like the second time, I have no idea how this show even aired on Disney Channel. Okay, there's only one curse word in here, and a teenager says it of all things. There are cigarettes, there is alcohol, there is gun, people being held up at gunpoint, a person being held up at knife point, people trying to murder people, human trafficking and stuff. Like, this show really goes there for a teenage show and everything. And it's like, how in the world did this ever air on Disney Channel of all things? Well, there's a very specific reason. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was during the Zoog Disney era, and they was a bit different than the cookie cutter, family friendly, like Disney Channel everybody knows now. That's very wacky. So they was able to get like, around that. They probably edited some stuff like when they later aired Boy Meets World and Sister Sister on Disney Channel, which were both ABC shows. They had to edit some things out. So most likely they had to edit it out of this series as well. But when watching this show, man, I'm telling you right here, it was like watching a Goosebumps reunion. I swear to God. As you might now know, if you've ever watched my channel, I'm a huge Goosebumps fan of the original back in the 90s. I'm a Goosebumper for life. I will still watch the older one today, and I hate the Disney Plus version. And when you watch this show, automatically you recognize tons of former Goosebump stars on here. A lot of them started off on Goosebumps and they later came to this show. The younger and the older cast have all been in like Goosebumps. And it's really refreshing and really cool to like see, you know what I'm saying? I wish they could have had more Goosebump stars on here, but sadly they did not. But a lot of the main cast and the recurring characters have been on Goosebumps. So when I watched this for the first time about 18 years ago, I was like, this person from that Goosebump show and that person from that Goosebump show. So I was like having like a blast, man. You know what I'm saying? And so this show, it's interesting, right? Because it's a Canadian show, but it was actually created by that of two British men, Ellis Iden and Phil Manger. They are the ones who created this show. And they've also created or they also worked on other stuff, like something called I Love Mummy. I think it's something like, an Egyptian mummy lives in the present day, or the soul went into like a boy or something like that. I've never seen it because it's a British show. But they work with their Winky Mania production that's in the UK and everything. And back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Canada and Britain used to collaborate a lot on children programs and stuff. The Worst Witch that came out in the late 90s is an example of that. So it's really fascinating that like these two British guys, worked on this Canadian show. The show premise is basically that of Shirley Holmes. And the intro pretty much explains, why she does what she does. She's highly intelligent. She's very observant, and she's great at solving mysteries and puzzles. And she's very, very, very knowledgeable and stuff. And so in the intro, you hear Sherlock Holmes basically say he has no heirs. And if you found this like locket box type thing, then basically what he is saying, you use more than just intelligence to like crack it open and stuff like that. But he assumed it would be like a guy, but she's a female and stuff. Cause back in those days, it was always like a man's world. And so like she takes out like a lot of his tools and she's playing around with them and stuff, and a lot of the stuff like he found. And so basically the premise of this show is that she goes to like a boarding school or a prep school, whatever you want to call it. And she meets this boy named Bo. And Bo is a former gang member. He's been accused of setting like a fire. And she sticks her nose in places she doesn't belong. That's what she does in every episode. Something will happen. She'll overhear something. She'll see something. She'll see something on the news. And she goes and she investigates. But she sticks her nose in everybody's business. And people are constantly telling her, butt out. Even like her friends and stuff. But she can't help but to do it because she just wants to solve mysteries. Because she just wants to help people. It's almost like an affection she has, like an impulse like behavior. She can't help but to stick her nose in people's business and solve their like mysteries and stuff. And she always ends up helping people out, and she never wants nothing in return. It's the gratitude of just helping innocent people. That's what she loves to do. And when she helps Bo out, he ends up becoming like her Watson. Bo is a little bit dim-witted. He's not intelligent like her. But he basically just roams around the city with her, looking for clues. Sometimes she'll have him like dust for prints or put something in like some type of solution to find out what the ingredients are, like in a soil sample or something like that. But basically, he's just her dim-witted friend. And a little bit of a crush. They don't really go there. But they're shown to where one time she did have a crush on him and she got jealous and stuff. The show is acted very amazingly. The lead actress, Meredith herself, she was nominated for a Gemini Award in '98, but she actually won in 1999 along with the show. The show was nominated in '98 as well, but it won in '99. And a lot of the writers and stuff won awards and stuff. This was considered one of the greatest kids show of the time back in the day and stuff, because it's just very fun and it's very, very different. I've seen other like children's detective shows as well, like Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider is my all-time personal favorite. But it does get a little cringy at times. But the portrayals on the show feel very realistic. And there have been other, like, kid crime detective type shows as well. But a lot of those I just can't get into, especially those in the modern day with like the technology and cell phones and everybody being able to look everything up on the web. That's one refreshing thing about this show being in the late 90s, is that technology was just starting to evolve to what we see now. You see old-fashioned computers, old-fashioned huge cell phones. You had to use your wits, and you actually had to go around to look for clues, as opposed to just typing it on the computer and having AI look for it for you, or something on the internet. I also like how they use old-fashioned tools and stuff. Like, she would rig a voice recorder on like a wire, so if you trip the wire, it starts like recording your audio, or like a camera, and it starts recording your image and stuff. And that's how she used to like spy on certain situations to figure out what the heck is going on. She also used like a fingerprint kit. She uses like a small little kid's laboratory thing to like look for like what's in something she's like looking for. She will literally take poop, animal poop, and like examine it to find out what's going on and find out what nefarious type thing is going on. Gross and disgusting. She has like old-fashioned type like lock picks and everything, like a magnifying glass. She has like a pen that where she clicks it, it has like a little tiny camera on the end of it, like a spy camera and stuff. It's fun to see that old school technology in a detective thing. That's one of the things about Batman that's getting on my nerves, is that they keep giving Batman all this high-tech equipment. But I miss the old days when he was an actual detective and he had old-fashioned tools. And that's the charm of this show, you know what I'm saying? It's the nostalgia of it all. It's the old school nature of it all. And I've seen, like I said before, other like teen detective shows like Nancy Drew on the CW, which went more in the supernatural route, and they did not utilize old school tech. But then you had the Hardy Boys on like Hulu, and it was set in the 80s, and once again, it didn't feel nostalgia like. It just felt like something in the modern time trying to be nostalgia. But this is real nostalgia right here, because it was made in that actual era, you know what I'm saying? And the girl used to go up against some really crazy stuff, her and Bo. They would go after a person who was literally human trafficking people, to where this one like Latino girl came to like America, and they started getting to human trafficking, and they had to like rescue them. There was one time where like this famous like celebrity saw something she wasn't supposed to. No, I think what it was, she advertised some type of product but didn't like it, so the company came after her and they had to put her on witness protection, and she literally ran for her life, and a dude with a gun went after her. Then I forget something else. There was one episode with like this person who does like vegan. I think she was rescuing animals or something like that. And a person who's crazy in the head literally held her at knife point. Then there was a person like stealing horses, and they had like that's on like a ranch, and so they had to stop that. Then there was another person who was taking like horses that they do like in the Kentucky Derby or whatever, and they kept like painting the horses different colors and would take the real horse someplace else and sell it. Then like there was like some of the students getting framed for something, and there was one time where this con artist would con like this woman out of her money by dating her and stuff. And it's just like very intriguing stuff that you wouldn't really expect to see on a children's teen like program, you know what I'm saying? And also like the gang that would start like fires, and then they try to blame it on Bo, who's like a former gang member. And like, this one older teenage boy who would have his little sister literally break into like malls and stuff and climb through like, the air ducts and like steal tons of stuff. Like it's very like interesting, like, capers that, they tried to solve and stuff. And you just really don't see that nowadays, even on like a teen program, like a teen like mystery thing. Because most of the time they're a little too afraid to go there, and if they do go there, they go there a little too far. But the show always had a nice blend of like young people stuff and a little bit of edgy stuff. However, a lot of their villains were kind of goofy in the head. And most of the times, the ending of the episode, because the episodes are 20 something minutes long, so sometimes they had to be rushed in writing. There isn't always time for like character development sometimes, and sometimes the villains are a little goofy in the head, and the way they get captured is just kind of like, really, that's how you capture them? But it's a kids show, so you can't have too much rough stuff, you know what I'm saying? And you can't have like shootouts and people getting hurt. So tying a person up with like a cowboy rope or a lasso or like tripping somebody up is sometimes what they had to do. And sometimes, yes, like Shirley is a bit too smart and she would figure things out a little too quickly to where you're kind of like, how did she figure that out too fast? I'm still trying to figure it out. So, but they had to like rush it because of like the time restraint and stuff like that. And like, oh, another thing they would do with her is like when she goes in like disguise, it's just crazy. Like there'll be a person at an outside restaurant and she'll steal like a waiter's outfit and pretend like, to be a waiter and everything. Or she'll actually go in like disguise. And like, it's just like, it's fun to see that because she was like a teen kid, like doing all this like adult stuff. But eventually the cast did have to grow up and everything. And you can start seeing a little bit of the change in season 2 when some of the guys' voices started to get deep. But it wasn't until the 3rd season people started having a growth spurt and everything. And it was really weird seeing these little kids now being teenagers or preteens now being older teenagers and stuff. And facial hair started growing on them. To where after the 4th season, the rumor has it the reason why the show got canceled is because the kids started to get older and stuff. So they would have to change the tone of the show to accommodate them being older. But in my opinion, the show was always pretty mature for its time. You know what I'm saying? So like they didn't have to change much. But I also believe I saw an interview with the lead actress, and I can't remember exactly what she said. I'm going to try to find the interview so I can quote her perfectly on here. But I believe she was starting to get kind of tired of the show at that time because like she wasn't used to like all that fame and everything. I remember one time she said she went somewhere. I don't know where exactly she went, but she went to go use the restroom. And then either a little girl followed her into the restroom, or she waited for her to come out, or the actress hid in the restroom. I can't remember exactly what it is. I'm gonna rewatch the interview if I can find it. By the time I get to her character bio in this video, so I'll know exactly what happened in the whole restroom situation. But it was one of those things where it was just like she was young and it was just a bit too much. And that what happens to a lot of celebrities, especially older ones, So just imagine like a preteen teenager being hounded by fans and all this. It was like apparently this was like a really popular show, but I never heard of it. That's the thing. But apparently it was like very, very popular back in the day. And so, with that level of fame and you being so young, and I don't know if she's like a shy person in real life, but it was a bit much for her. So she was probably relieved when like the show came to like the end. I wish they would like revive the show with the original cast, now showing them as much older adults. I believe the lead actress and the rest of the cast should be around in their 40s now, I believe. So it would be great to see what they've been up to and if Shirley is still like a detective, if not, Because if it was that popular back in the day, it could still be just that popular now, you know what I'm saying? And it can be even more edgier and go darker and won't have the restraints of being that of a kid's program. I'm not sure if the show ever came out on DVD. It might have come out on VHS. The only place you can really watch it is YouTube, and the quality is really bad. And you have to go to at least 2 or 3 different YouTube channels just to watch the entire series. I don't think it's on streaming. It might have been at one point, but I can't find it nowhere on streaming. So yeah, YouTube is gonna have to be like, your best shot of like watching this. And it's funny, I never knew it was a Canadian show because you don't never see like no Canadian flag or nothing like that. Because like there's only one television show that's a Canadian show I've ever seen show the Canadian flag. And so I don't know why they don't show that stuff a whole lot more in their programmings and stuff. I will say that, I don't know how Canadian shows are, but as an American, it was refreshing to see a person of indigenous race on this show. Because there's one indigenous character, and I remember her from Goosebumps. I had no idea she was indigenous. Because she played I think she was like an Egyptian person in the Goosebump episode. But like, yeah, she's like indigenous and stuff like that. And in America, it's very rare to see them on television. Heck, it's very rare just to see them out and about in the open and everything, like in the city. So that was really cool to like see. The show is predominantly white. They've had like one Asian character on the show. And so they will start showing a couple of more black people as the series will go on from like the third on up and stuff. Um, there is a huge mystery revolving Shirley's mom. Supposedly she is dead, but Shirley just assumes she's missing because they never found the body, and she's missing somewhere in Africa. So it gets like, mentioned like, in the beginning of the series and stuff, but then she's later found out to be like alive, like later on towards the end of the series and stuff. It's one of those things that I wish they could have mentioned a whole lot more because they only really mention it once, maybe twice a season and stuff, but really just once. In terms of character development, there's a recurring cast on the show. Sometimes some episodes revolve around them. Sometimes it revolves around them in like a big amount of time, sometimes in a small portion and everything. They never really truly go on like investigative like things with Shirley and Bo. Sometimes they do, but not for like the entirety of the episode. Basically, the recurring cast gets about like one episode dedicated to them per season, and kind of same thing with Bo and Shirley themselves. Like they'll get like one episode that will revolve personally around them per season, because the rest of the episodes revolves around like just random characters they try to like help out. So it doesn't really have like that much character development. What you see is what you get in terms of characters on this show. So however they start off in the beginning, that's pretty much how they end towards the end of like the 4 season run. Stink, however, leaves sometime in the 3rd season, and he's not in the 4th season. I'm not sure why exactly. Maybe the actor had like another project or something like that. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Okay, so it seems that this is on streaming. It's on a platform called Plex. I've never used that before. But yeah, it seems to be like, you can actually watch it in good quality on that streaming service. So as I was looking for pictures to use for like this video and stuff, I came across something on Amazon that's called The Adventures of Shirley Holmes and Janie Watson. I'm all like, what the heck is that? So as I clicked on it, apparently there's an author by the name of K.R. Hall, and she created a two-book series of The Adventures of Shirley Holmes and Janie Watson, two detectives and everything. And I'm just kind of like, wow. It came out in 2020, but she started writing in 2017. And I'm just kind of like, there's only one Shirley Holmes who's a detective that's based on Sherlock Holmes and everything. And that's from the TV show from back in, like, the 90s and stuff. There's been no other incarnation of her. She's an original creation and everything. And so, like, I find it odd that this author gonna name the character Shirley Holmes and has her own Watson and stuff. Most likely, she probably stumbled upon the television show, thought it was interesting, and decided to create like a book series based not so much on the television show, but like her own kind of creation, but based it on like that character. People, man, I swear, like if you were gonna do that, change her name. Don't call her Shirley and everything. Cause that's a potential lawsuit right there. But only if the company that owns Shirley Holmes, like, still has the rights to it. Which somebody has to have the rights to the show because it was on streaming at one point. But that's not all. I just now found The Adventures of Shirley Holmes, written by Basil Mitchell in 2002. So that's kind of odd. Maybe they had permission to use the character, or maybe copyright just wasn't a big thing at that time. I'm also finding other books called The Many Adventures of Shirley Holmes, and it's completely different illustration and stuff. This is like odd, man, because like if I was the creators of the show, I would sue. Okay, so character bios. I'm gonna start with Peter. You might not recognize Peter. He's some redhead kid who normally hangs out with the group, but he doesn't do much and he just pops in and pops out. Shirley Holmes, played by Meredith Henderson. So she is the great grand niece of Sherlock Holmes and stuff. She's Canadian born, even though her father and grandmother are British and stuff. And so she is the main character of the show. She is highly inquisitive, very smart. She can deduce things within seconds, and sometimes it happens too quickly, and I don't like that, but I get it. It's a kid's show and it's 20 minutes long. So, but yeah, it's just like she'll look at something, think about something, and able to deduce what it is within seconds and stuff. Her primary goal in life is just to help people and solve crimes. She doesn't rely on the police because she thinks it takes them way too long to do things, and she just has a very inquisitive and very tenacious like personality, coming from that of her great grand uncle and stuff. And just like Sherlock Holmes, she's always in everybody's business and always trying to figure stuff out. And it does cause a bit of tension between her and other folks because she is always in people's business and she's always blaming people for stuff. And that really gets on people's nerves because they take really like a lot of offense to that. But she can't help but to be who she is. And so like her personality is really interesting. She kind of has this monotone way of talking, this very logical way of talking and stuff. Originally, I assumed it was just the character, but I think it might be like the actress because she talks very much like that in Goosebumps. And but she has the, but I like it though. It's like really cool because it really gives her character some type of like personality. So I like the way she talks. She has a group of friends and they're all completely different from her. And like the thing about her friends is like I see why she didn't want them to be her Watson because like Alicia is like, so aloof in the head. Then you have like Bart who's all about aliens and ghosts and stuff like that. So Bo was like the logical choice because Stink is all about like being comedic and stuff. But in one episode, Molly has her go like on some type of like has her kidnapped and have her locked in like a vault. And I do like that episode because of the simple fact her friends have to be the one to figure out where Shirley is and how to save her and stuff, which none of them are smart enough to do, but they all band together with all their different personalities and they're able to help her. Her fashion sense is very interesting. She has like so many different hats that like it is insane. And a lot of her hats come from like different countries. There's like an Italian hat, a French hat, an African hat, even a fedora and everything. Why she wears so many different hats is beyond me. It's never explained. But her fashion sense also looks like it comes from that of the early 90s and stuff. Reminding me of Lenny, I think that's her name, from not Goosebumps, but Ghost Rider and stuff. Cause she dresses and just like, looks so much like her, like style wise and stuff. Now, as for her clothes, she looks like she dresses like that of a much older, mature woman. It reminds me of some of the clothes the mothers used to wear on Goosebumps in the mid 90s and stuff. And because she dresses very much like eloquent, but in like an older, mature kind of way. And it's really interesting because she never really dresses like a teenage girl except for like a few episodes where all of a sudden you'll see her wear like a skirt and like a colorful outfit because she mostly wears draft colors like beige, browns, cream colors, green, stuff like that. But then one time she was pretty colorful and dressing in a skirt and looked very much like a teenager. That's probably the actress just wanting to like, spruce up like Shirley's wardrobe and stuff. But then there is an episode where, when she has to go undercover, she has to like doll herself up or turn goth or something like that, or a punk. And so, it causes her to like change it up because she really doesn't wear skirts unless it's her uniform because she mostly wear pants. But then I noticed in season 3, she started wearing skirts a bit more and everything. Despite having a group of friends, Bo seems to be her best friend. And they're constantly hanging out because they're solving cases together and stuff. And because of that, people normally mistake them as like boyfriend and girlfriend, but they never dated. However, she does have a jealousy side in one episode. It's called Dragon Something. And I think it's like Dragon Breath or something like that. I can't remember. It's one where that Asian girl came, who mother was, what was her mother? Like a queen or something, or a princess or something like that. And like both started hanging around that girl and they started liking each other. And Shirley just got like really pissed off and jealous and stuff. She did not like seeing those two together. One reason is because she suspected that girl was up to something nefarious, and two, for whatever reason, she didn't want to see Bo with another girl. And I mean, when she got heated jealous, she got heated jealous and stuff. But she never dated Bo. But then in one episode, I think that somebody talking about like accused him of being dating. And she just seems to be completely disgusted by the idea of dating. And because she's so logical and all in the books, she really doesn't understand like, a lot of street level stuff. She didn't even know what a hickey was at one point. But there was a guy she ended up liking and almost kissed. It was during that ranch episode with the horses and stuff. Her personality is pretty logical, I guess you could say. Is kind of bleak. She tries to tell jokes because people accuse her of not being like funny and stuff. So when she tries to tell jokes, which does make sense in a logical kind of smart kind of way, they don't really come off as funny, and she gets offended when people do not laugh. She doesn't really seem to care all that much what people think about her because she's in her own little world. She's kind of awkward in a way, but to her, she's just being normal. She's always disobeying like her father's wishes because he wants her to stay home, but she always has to go behind his back and go and investigate stuff. Her and her dad have a very great relationship, and she loves him to death. And she got jealous when she thought he was dating another woman, but it turns out she was like a woman in some type of like protection agency type thing, and he was trying to rescue her and stuff because she still has hope that her mom is still alive. She loves her mom to death, but her mom is missing in Africa, but everybody assumes she is dead. Her father is a very rich man and a British diplomat. The actor who plays her father, he is Canadian born, but also British. His parents are British and stuff like that. And it's actually his voice we hear voicing Sherlock Holmes in the narration in the intro. Her grandmother is also British and like one of those spunky older grandparents, who doesn't act like, a slow acting grandparent. Now, her grandmother stopped appearing in the series at the finale of the third season and does not appear in the fourth season. Her mom is a very kind woman who went missing in Africa. Basically, there was like some type of civil war going out with the two military fractions and stuff, and one of the military fractions kidnapped her to do research and help treat the wounded, and she helped cure like some type of virus that was going on. She is found in the finale of the third season when Shirley and her father go on over there and they go looking for her, which of course Shirley ends up separating from her father, getting lost and stuff like that. But she eventually is the one who stumbles upon her mother. And when the military dude was supposed to shoot and kill them, I told you, man, this show can get edgy. He decides to let them go and just like fakes their murder and everything, to where they're reunited with her father. This is the only episode in which Bo does not appear. And I'm shocked and surprised that he doesn't appear in like the beginning of the episode when they're home. Where they filmed this, I have no idea. Because it very much looks like the jungle of like Africa, and they cast a lot of dark-skinned black people to appear in this, which normally in Canada they don't do that. But because there's so many new actors coming in to play these roles, they probably couldn't pay the recurring cast. That's probably why Bo did not appear. Just like Shirley's father, her mother doesn't like it really when she goes around and do all this investigative stuff, and she doesn't like it when Shirley keeps secrets from that. But unlike her father, her mother and Shirley actually got into verbal blows when Shirley constantly kept harassing this one doctor about this skeleton Shirley found. Shirley gets along with everyone until she starts investigating them, and then they become like on her bad side. Molly is like her nefarious like arch nemesis and stuff. Now there is one episode where her real life sister, Meredith's real life sister, does like appear in the series and stuff. It's the one with like the Karate Girl gang. Reminds me of Cobra Kai and everything. Her sister is the blonde one, and her sister was also in Goosebumps. Shirley has a variety of spy equipment, which she uses all the time. And she's so smart. She seems to know like everything, right? What like periodic table, like formulas, all kind of different things, what makes what. But she's not entirely perfect. She does get cases wrong because she's always placing the blame on other people until later she's able to deduce, oh wait, it's actually this person who's doing this and stuff like that. I do like that because it makes her flawed, and also that's a typical detective cop type stuff that you see in other shows. But when she's on the case, that's all she can think about. And it's like a recurring gag between her and Bo in the first season, where it's like every time it's like lunchtime or time they eat, she needs his help with something, so he's unable to eat his food. But like, I do like the fact that the thing about the Shirley character is that they could have made this show with like a boy, you know what I'm saying? But they chose to make it a girl, which is cool because it gave girls like a role model. And Shirley is a really good role model for like little girls. She's intelligent, she's intuitive, like, she's like has a very positive personality. She gets along with people very well. She's really good at like, disguises and just like sneaking around. And it's just like behind that stern, logical Spock type, like, mannerism, she will bust out a smile every once in a while. And it does remind you she is like, just a little girl, but she's a very important little girl. And it's always great to have a cool role model in a television series because most of the time, a lot of these newer television shows have some of the worst characters I've ever seen. But this was back in the late 90s, so things were a lot different. She's not that strong and she can't really fight, but when she does have to get in a scuffle, she can, for the most part, take care of herself. Like that time, Bo was kind of like brainwashed with those pheromones, and him and her got into a scuffle. He constantly kept pushing her down, but she just straight up slapped him and just kept on running. Then there was like the karate girls, where she had to learn how to do martial arts and everything. And like, but they were still like are better than her. But it's just like, she's a good character, a couple of flaws here and there, but overall, like she is like an amazing like person. And I see why a lot of people really loved this show back in the day because it was something fun. It was like a teenage girl solving crimes and mysteries, and they were big crimes and like mysteries. Some of them were, other ones were kind of a little silly. And like I said before, like because this show can get edgy and dark, they had to kind of like lighten up the ending, so whenever somebody gets caught, it's kind of like falls flat, to where like in the Karate Girl gang episode, when the gang was gonna beat up Shirley and all her friends just had silly string and shoot it at like the karate girls, and they all like, oh yeah, I remember having fun and all this other stuff. So they just started playing with it, and it's like that ended the episode. And it's just kind of like how, because they had to make it like for kids, and they were going a little bit too dark. Like this gang was gonna mess Shirley up. John White. He plays Bo, but it's found out in the second season his Bo is his middle name for Boris, but his first name is Francis. So it's Francis Boris slash Bo Shawshwick or something like that. No, Shawshuck or something like that. He's Ukrainian and he used to be in a gang. And so like he used to be a bad boy, but then somehow when they was gonna frame him for like setting fires and stuff, Shirley helped him out, and then he ended up at some point going to Sussex. I hate saying that. Sussex. I hate saying that word, academy. It's weird, man. It's like it's a Canadian show, but sometimes they'll use British terms and they have like American money. That don't make no sense. Anyway, so at some point, him and her started being friends, and he became her Watson and everything. But he's dumb with it. He's not very intelligent, and but he's more sane in the head than her other friends, and so he's mostly there for backup support and to cause distractions. And he's also there to help her, like do fingerprints and like do like put things in chemical solutions to figure out like if there are like any other chemical residues on there and stuff like that. But you rarely see him do that. You mostly see him do that in the pilot. But for every other episode, he's mostly just there to tag along with her and help her find stuff, even though she finds it herself. Technically, she really doesn't need him, but like he is there, like I said before, to help cause like distractions, to help her break into places. He helps her break into like other things that she can't get into with like her lock picks and stuff, where he'll just kick down the door. He's there to keep an eye on her in case like like a lookout and stuff. So he is very useful and stuff, but he's not very intelligent. And but his family is somewhat poor and stuff, and when things got like bad, he had to basically quit school and get like a part-time job, which of course Shirley butted in his business but helped him solve the day and find out like the horses were being repainted and sold to somebody else. They rarely ever have fights. Him and her get along very smoothly, but they have gotten to a couple of arguments, like the one where he didn't want her to know about his family situation and stuff, and how they were gonna get like evicted, and like because she constantly kept snooping around. And then another episode where it's like he had a crush on another girl and she didn't like that. And then there was one where he got brainwashed by like pheromones. There was a time where he got beat up by like a karate gang, and when he found out they was girls, he felt less of a boy. His masculinity just like dropped a couple of pegs and stuff. And to regain it, he kicked open the door and felt good about himself. Oh boy. I do remember in the second season his the actor had braces, but then after that he no longer had them. It was cool to see him and the rest of the cast get older. Like by the second season his voice just dropped. Cause I'm used to hearing that squeaky voice from the first season and Goosebumps and stuff. But then when his voice dropped, it's like, oh, well, who is this man? Then he started getting taller. He started getting like facial hair and everything. A more mature looking haircut. It was cool to see them grow up on like television and stuff, For the most part, like he really cares about Shirley, but they've never ever dated. And in the finale, him and his family go back to like the Ukraine and stuff. And it was a really sad moment to see those two have to like break up and leave, because they're like a duo. Brendan Fletcher. So he plays Sterling, aka Stink. And he is the class clown of like the school. He's never serious about anything, and neither is his father. His father owns like some type of like joke gag shop type thing with props and stuff, and they're always clowning around. He is a really interesting character because he's part of the friend group, but like he only appears in about like a handful of episodes. He only appears in probably one episode per season, maybe two and everything. And whenever they do, those episodes normally revolves around him, and Shirley has to like investigate and stuff. Like in the first time, like he's running for class president, and Molly sets him up to where he takes the blame for something, and Shirley has to help him. This like ruby that like Molly stole. Then in the second episode that he appears in, I think in the second season, and it's cool because his like appearance changed as well. Like he had kind of like this bowl kind of like hair shape. Like I remember that in Goosebumps in the first season. Then he cut his hair in like the second and everything. And so like his dog was accused of killing cats in the neighborhood. And so the pound was gonna lock up his dog and and euthanize it and stuff. And he rescued his dog and literally ran away from home because he loved his dog so much. But it turned out that this one guy was just ended up like kidnapping cats, and trying to sell them and stuff. Then in his third appearance, Molly literally had him take the blame for something because she wanted to go to something with the UN, but she couldn't pass her psych evaluation. So she lied and said Stink just stole the answers to a bunch of tests. And because of that, he got kicked out of school, but then he started doing stand-up comedy at kind of like this teenage like comedy club type thing. And he knew she set him up because they talked about it and stuff. And but then when he realized that she tried to fool that of Shirley, he decided to confess. But he was unable to get back into the school. And so because of that, in the third season, he doesn't appear in the fourth. The actor is interesting because, like I said before, I first saw him in Goosebumps, R.L. Stine, right? He is the only actor from Goosebumps to appear in both Goosebumps and The Haunting Hour. So that's like really cool. And the actor still acts till this day. He's been in at least 3 different DC comic projects. He was in Smallville. He was in Arrow, I believe it was, and he was also, I think he was also in Lois and Superman, that show, Superman and Lois, that came out just a while back. So he's done like a lot of stuff with DC and everything. Alicia, she is played by, I can't say her name that well, Anik Oben. I can't pronounce her name. I really can't pronounce her last name. But she is part of Shirley's friend group. And she has a very spunky personality. A very upbeat personality. She is indigenous. And so she appears throughout the series. But really, there's only one, maybe 2 or 3 episodes that revolve around her. The first one has to do with like a friend of hers that ended up stealing something because they wanted to preserve their indigenous culture and artifacts. And she takes very much offense to that when Shirley starts to blame her friend, who is also indigenous and stuff. But it turned out he was part of like the culprit and stuff, but he had good intentions. Throughout the series, she's not as smart as like the other like characters. She's kind of dim-witted as well. She's a bit aloof, but she also buckles down to peer pressure and stuff. She just can't take it. Like when she was running for class president, and the pressure just got too much because of all the crazy stuff that was going on, she bowed out. She liked that one boy on the ranch, but then when she saw him and Shirley kind of like liking each other, she bowed out and everything. By the third season, they kind of revamped her character to where she became a waitress at that comedy club thing for teenagers, and she became a fashionista and everything. She was all about the glam, the clothes, the makeup, the hair. She was always styling and everything. And she would put down other people because of their appearance and stuff. She became a bit of a brat in the third season when she had to film this fan film type movie type thing about like zombies, and her and Bart constantly kept arguing and everything because she was becoming like a diva and stuff. But other than that, she is a really good friend to that of Shirley and the others. Bart, played by Blair Slater. So no matter what, like how old this dude is, he's always had that deep, rascally type voice. It's kind of grovelly a little bit as he got older. Like I remember in Goosebumps, he had like a normal, like kitty sounding voice, but then within just a couple of minutes later, that Goosebump episode, he started having like a deep voice. And I assume he was just pretending to have a deep voice because this ghost from like the cowboy days took over his body, but no, it's just his real voice and everything. And so out of all her friends, he is the only one who believes in ghosts and aliens. So every episode that revolves around him, which everybody normally gets like one episode per season, it always pertained to the ghosts or like alien type stuff, which Shirley finds out that, hey, they're not real, and this is how the person did this with this like magnet or something like that. But then in that one alien episode where this guy who's like an astrophysicist or whatever, the show kind of leaves the question unanswered whether or not this dude was really an alien or if he was just a crazy man and stuff. I hate when they do that, like just explain it to me and don't add stuff like that in there if the show is pretty grounded and stuff. Molly Hardy, played by that Sarah Ezer, I think that's how you say her last name. I read that like she originally was doing sports, but then got hurt so bad that she couldn't do them no more, and so she took up acting and stuff. Molly is basically Shirley's Artie and stuff. She is her arch nemesis. The girl is very vain. The girl is highly smart with an IQ of 180 and stuff, but she is very narcissistic and very selfish and very evil. She gets satisfaction out of other people's pain. And so, like, for whatever reason, she just has it out for Shirley. She does not like her, I guess, because she's the other person who's just as smart as her. And she doesn't like competition and stuff. There was this one episode when she first appears where she's like a new student and she's friends with Alicia, but she wants to be class body president. So she frames Stink and she causes all the pressure to cause Alicia to bow out. So basically it's like this red ruby type thing, and she stole it but placed the blame on Stink. Then like when Shirley started to investigate, she later put it back so she couldn't be fingered for like the crime and stuff. And it was just all so she can be like student body president. Nobody knows she's this evil and does all this bad stuff except for Shirley and Bo. Because the next time she appears, because she normally when she appears, this is when like episodes revolve around her. So she basically does something bad one or at least twice in the season. But then other times by the third and the fourth season, she started to appear more. And then there was one episode where she actually didn't do anything bad, but we saw how psychotic she was and everything. And so like she always has to be the best at everything, and she does miss her parents because in this one episode she pretended to be kidnapped by like a ghost just so she couldn't do her recital thing, then came back hoping that her parents would be concerned about her being missing and stuff and come to her recital, but they never did. And so she does things for her own pleasure, but she does like have neglected parents. Then in this other episode, this one teacher was being conned by a con man out of her money, and Shirley found that out and was going to reveal it to her. But Molly wanted to be the one to reveal it for her, and just so the woman can have her heart broken and stuff, so she can take pleasure in that lady's pain. Stink is the only one who has a crush on her. She knows that and hate it. And in one episode, like I told you, she literally blackmailed him twice. Not blackmailed, but she framed him twice for two of her own, like, evil doing or whatever. It's revealed when she got Stink kicked out of school that she wanted to do something for, like, the UN. And so, like, she had to take like a psych evaluation, but she failed it because it turns out she's actually psychotic in the head. And so she didn't want those papers to get sent. So instead, she made up this whole thing about Stink stealing, like, test papers and everything like that to cover up her tracks. But of course, Shirley busted her and this and that. So to get back at Shirley, she used a voice synthesizer to pretend to be Shirley's grandmother and had Shirley locked up inside a bank vault. A bank vault that had like a statue, an Egyptian statue in it. So when her father, what was I say he was? Not an ambassador, but a diplomat. When her father was going there with a bunch of people to unveil like the statue and everything, they would have found Shirley inside. Her father would have got in trouble. Shirley would have got in trouble. But of course, the trio ended up saving that of Shirley before the doors got open and stuff. Now, some people suspect that she is the great grandniece of Moriarty and stuff, but that would be kind of odd that two British famous people will have grandnieces that somehow ended up in Canada. You know what I'm saying? So I like the fact that she's a version, a variant of him, but I don't like the idea if she was related to him. In that one episode where she showed like how crazy she was, basically Bo and Bart was doing something and they made her computer crash. So she literally screamed and hollered like somebody was murdering her, but she was only pissed that the computer crashed and then she threw it out the window. Now, there's a really cool interview where Meredith talks about, like, other projects she's been in, and of course, the Shirley Holmes series and stuff on this other YouTube channel, and I'll link it below. So yeah, this was like a really interesting kids series that had a bit of edge to it. And you need a little bit of that edge because you don't want to be too fluffy and stuff. The first season is on that one streaming site that I told you, Plex or something like that. But you can find the entire series on YouTube. It's just the quality is not that good. And you have to go to at least 2 or 3 different channels just to be able to watch the entire series and stuff. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.